What's up, everybody? Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Shape the Podcast. Most of you know me, but for all of you who are new to the Shape the Podcast page, my name is Kyle Waller, and I'm your host. Um, you'll notice I'm not sitting at my living room table tonight. I don't have pictures of my wife and myself from my wedding behind me. That's because I'm in Ghent, West Virginia. Um, I'm with Chris Hall and a bunch of awesome Bearded people, and we are at the Appalachian Bearded Feud that's taking place tomorrow. Um, so if you're in Ghent, West Virginia, and you want something positive to do, um, come check us out. But first, let's hit that intro. Hey, what's up? Welcome back. Big thanks again um, to everybody for watching the podcast this evening. I'm gonna keep it nice, short, and simple for you. Tonight's guest is a guy that I met through Aaron Johnston because he was on Talking Beards a little bit over a month ago. Um, but tonight, my guest is Justin Cheatham. Justin Cheatham owns a awesome sawmill down in the Orlando, Florida area, Cheatham and Sons Sawmill. So if you're in the Orlando area and you need some wood, Justin's your man. He's got all the wood you can handle. All right? But Justin's got an awesome story. So I'm gonna bring him on and we'll just start with that.
Hi,
What's
buddy.
up, man? How you doing?
Thank you for the shout out.
Dude, yes. But by the way, I love the background. I love that you're sitting at your sawmill right now.
Yes, sir.
No,
Right here in Ghent.
yes, Justin is also here in Ghent, West Virginia. We were going to do it live in front of an audience, but it was just going to be there was going to be too much background noise, and really, for both of us to be comfortable and for everybody to get the real, just the real story from Justin, I thought it'd be best for us to just do it from our rooms. So Justin's actually a few rooms down in his room, and I'm in mine. But Justin, there's a lot of people that know you, but a lot of people that don't know you from the podcast. So introduce yourself, man. Let everybody know who you are.
I mean, I'm Justin Cheatham. I live in Christmas, Florida, actually. It's east of Orlando towards the coast. Tell everybody that I live between Mickey Mouse and the Rockets. So that's kind of poked out in the woods a little bit out here where the old sawmill is.
Christmas, Florida, is that like very Christmassy? That's the question.
We have a giant Christmas tree that's lit year round with a manger scene next door to the Christmas post office. And like if you're driving, you've got Bithlow, that's the Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah.
And once you get through there, you blink, you've already driven through Christmas and you're in Brevard County, passing the river, and then you're headed out towards the Space Coast.
Wow, that's crazy. Yes. So, people up where I'm at in Ohio, people have heard of Holiday Road, right? And that's like Santa themed. But So really, if you really want the full Christmas experience, you got to go to Christmas, Florida. You do. Except they don't get snow.
Ever, but we have Santa and Christmas lights all year round.
So I'd like to thank you beforehand for coming on the podcast, and B, introducing me to PJ Charles, because you had an event a couple weeks ago that actually benefited Straight Street, which is what
Orlando.
PJ started. And so how did that go? Let's just get into that before we really start the meat and potatoes.
Well, this event last weekend, it was spurred by nationals that we were in, at the end of last year. So, the whole mental health thing ties into PJ, and the reason I put it all on But the event for Straight Street was a huge success. We had a good turnout. I think we had like 35 competitors or so,
All right.
and we raised $2,250 for Straight Street, and
Nice.
it's going to go to help a lot of good people and help PJ touch more and more people out there.
Yeah. So let's just get into that because we're gonna get into how you and PJ met, but let's just start like at your story, like a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into just the meat and potatoes of it all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I grew up out in the country, the old Southern boy, farming and doing the working cows and hunting and fishing. Had a really great childhood. Both parents still married, showing
Yeah.
me how to be a good husband. Made me who I am
Yeah.
as an adult. They helped mold me. I got into sports as a kid. I was very athletic. Then I joined the military right out of high school. I was an Air Force firefighter for 4 years. Got out of the military and uh, I got a DUI, so that kind of ruined some of my fire department stuff. I'd been
Yeah.
in the fire department in the military and got out, and I worked for a fire department for a little while until they had a layoff, and then I was last hired, so I was the first one they had to let go because they had to let go of a few people. And then I got into construction and worked construction until I broke my back about 5 years ago, and then
Wow.
the sawmill kind of spurred itself because I had a chainsaw and a dump trailer. I was like, oh, I can cut firewood, and I actually sold an old rusted Mustang for this bad boy right here.
Nice.
So then everything, my meat and potatoes of the story starts
Yeah.
right around
So
that sobriety point.
yeah. So like, I mean that had to be a pretty eye opening experience to, there goes your career. You're gonna be a
Yeah.
firefighter. You get that DUI, and next thing you know, you're cutting wood for a living.
Yeah. I mean, this is actually recent. I've been that guy that's sat at home for 3 months and I couldn't move because of my injury, and
Yeah.
but I could get up and make that bottle.
Yeah.
I could make a whiskey drink.
Yeah. And that took care of all the pain, like at least at that time. But and realistically, you were creating more pain at the same time.
Yeah, I was an alcoholic pretty much from the time I joined the military until
Yeah.
I sobered up um, almost 4 years ago.
What made you so like when you were out there drinking, like did you have to like did you go through any like AA or classes like that or anything like that, or was it like, all right, I'm at this point in my life where I gotta put up or shut up type of thing, you know?
No, I pretty much got the court order after
Uh,
I got the DUI and got into all that. Um, Pretty much I did those classes, and once they were done, like those classes made me want to drink more.
yeah,
So
yes, they do. I mean,
there was a
I've
crew
heard
of us
that.
that went to the bar after every meeting.
I went through AA and I did AA, and it was so weird, like because you would have like the court appointed guys and girls come into the AA meetings, and you could just tell that they were just there to do what they were supposed to get the courts off their backs, you know, because you would see like the same ones week and week and week and week, and they would white chip, or uh, hey, I'm a first timer, I have 1 day clean, and you see the same people, and it's those people that finally, like I remember when I was in, a couple of the guys after they got through the court order, like it stuck with them, and they would be silver chippers, and then they would get their red chip, and the green and the purples and the blues, and those guys, like I've seen a handful of those people make it. So, but yeah, you were one of those guys at first. You're like, yeah, I'm just gonna do this because I was told I have to do it, but I'm gonna
Yeah,
go to the bar afterwards.
I
You
could
know?
go now and it would hit completely different.
Yes, that's because your mind frame is You know,
Completely
now
changed.
that you're here and you're not here anymore, your mind frame's totally different now. You know, so of course it would.
Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you can't tell somebody that something that they don't want to hear.
No.
Because
Yeah.
at the time, it didn't matter if you were sober or not. You couldn't tell me what to do. I was going to pour another drink anyway.
Yeah. But by the way, you have some fans in the chat tonight. You got uh, Mr. Shane Bulware. He's saying Justin.
That's
So yeah,
because
yeah. You got a couple fans going on. So at that point, you know, when you're going through the court appointed stuff and you're still going out and drinking and living the life that you want to do, how is that affecting you?
sorry, I was reading chat again. What'd you say?
Uh, when
Apologies.
you were, oh yeah, you're good. When you were going through the court appointed stuff, and you know you were still going out and drinking and raising hell, like how was that affecting you? Was it like, I mean, were you still like, all right, I gotta, you know, uh,
I was trying to be safer because of the DUI, but
yeah,
in reality, I didn't care. The drink was more important to me than my safety, my sobriety, anything. I at that time I was so deep into drinking, it was just I wanted to drown out whatever anger or whatever sadness or happiness. I
yeah,
had an excuse to go drink, whether it was good, bad,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. I mean, really, like, and here, and I'm here to tell everybody right now, um, I drink. You know, I'm a social drinker. I'm able, thanks to AA and thanks to me learning, I'm able to live in a household where you know I have whiskey and bourbon sitting on my shelves, but it doesn't matter. You know, um, so we do whatever we can to fix our lives. You know, so if anybody has that, you know, those type of issues going on where you don't know what to do, you can always reach out to anybody. But so yeah, so you're like, you know, you were doing that, and thank God, man, because I'm glad I didn't know that, Justin, because I probably would have partied with you anyway.
Hey, I was a good party time.
I
I
bet,
was the
man.
life usually.
Yeah. So like, so what else? Like, you know, what like, so that totally changed your. I'm sure it changed who you were hanging out with and what you were doing in your family life. You know.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I was drinking, like I'd come home and hang out with my wife and kid for a little bit, but
Yeah.
in my married life, my prior life, I was living at the bar.
Yep.
I was going, partying at friends' houses, the house parties, the military. I was always at the dance clubs, and
Yep.
it
So
was just, yeah.
do you think the military do you, and I don't want to like I don't know how to word this, but do you think that led you to drink more simply because of the situation? You know.
Well, being in the military for a lot of the people I've talked to about it, because it's something I'm not going to sit here and blame the military for my
Yeah.
drinking.
Yeah.
I was
Never.
putting
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
putting the bottle to my
Yep.
mouth.
Yeah.
It was
That nobody was forcing you to do it. You're doing it on your own. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I think it became an easy coping mechanism because
Yep.
I was away from home,
Yep.
and like I was stationed in Fort Walton Beach, and I grew up in Orlando. Like I wasn't even stationed out of Florida, but it was
Wow.
far enough that it kept me away for decent amounts of time. I wasn't home for Christmases. Being a firefighter, you work 24 and you were off 24.
Yep.
And I couldn't drive home in 8 hours and turn around and be back. Even on my days off, I would get like 24 hours hanging out with the wife, or not the wife. That back then it was my girlfriend or my mom
Yeah.
and dad, and then turn around having to drive 8 hours home. You can't do that too many times because it gets expensive, and it's just the drive sucks. I mean, we drove 10 hours today, and it was like, man, now I'm old and it hurts way worse to even drive. Like, man, I
Yes.
wish I was young again.
Yeah. I can tell you with us, me and my wife, it's like when we get home on Sunday, we'll probably like go to bed early because man, I'm 45 now, and these long trips, if we have to drive over 5 hours, it's like, really, like it's a 5 hour road trip to you know to see my family in Tennessee. Yes, so that affects your you know you're living now. So yeah, so you got sober the first time because of the court order. Um, what made you really change? Your life
Um,
for the good.
well, after I I got the DUI, I was I was probably it was probably 2 or 3. It was about 7 years before I actually sobered up again, and I tried a million times. I'd make it a day or a week, but I only had that couple months after the DUI, and then I had like a 3 month stint one night whenever I got drunk and was mad at myself for being such a piece of shit
Hmm.
because all I did was drink. I could tell what it was doing to me, but I liked the feeling of being intoxicated.
Yeah,
I was drowning out pain. I was drowning out emotions. With what I went through in my past, and you know, I like I said, I grew up in a really good childhood, and
hmm,
I had a great home. I was fortunate, but then I got out into the world and started making stupid choices, and sometimes whenever you are in emergency services, you see some things that stick with you the rest of your life.
yeah,
And sometimes they're harder to deal with than other times. I can just talk and I can think about plenty of times whenever I was in some bad situations and somebody else was having a worse day. So,
yeah.
you know, I
Well, yeah,
feel
I like what Jeff Harris just said in the chat. If you're a heavy drinker, cold turkey is dangerous.
it
Well,
is.
yeah, because I mean, just like any other substance, you go through DTS with alcohol. I mean, I can remember some of the worst detoxes. Through me getting sober the first time, off of alcohol and drugs. I can remember going through my detoxes, and it was like I need that. I need that one more drink to get me over the edge. You know. So, but I mean, it's hard for people to admit that they have a problem, and then it's even harder for people to take the steps necessary to change that problem. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't matter how hard I tried. I don't didn't matter how many times I sobered up. You know, it took it took a month before I even got all of the alcohol out of my system, probably, and the effects that it had on me.
Yeah.
It changes your brain chemistry. Like
Yeah.
I looked and researched into the things that people were telling me whenever I was drinking, but I didn't want to hear it because I had heard it from my mom every time. Oh, you're gonna drink yourself into an early grave, and I
Yeah.
was. There's nothing my mom and dad or anybody told me that wasn't right or wasn't wrong. You
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah. Well, at
I'm
least you still had that contact with your family during my and I'm not gonna say that mine was bad or whatever because it was part of me, but I remember during my heyday of drinking and drugging, my family didn't matter, you know, and and so I didn't have that contact, but you know, but it's good that you had that family because maybe that's what you need to hear, you know, because
yeah.
sometimes it's harder and but it also means more if we hear it from somebody who loves us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I wrote a little thing that I'd like to read sometime during the podcast tonight. We could do it now or in a
Oh yeah,
little
man.
bit.
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and cut into that and read it, go ahead,
I
man.
think I think if we read that, I can cut back and forth and start pulling that apart and kind of dissect it and
Yeah, dude,
explain it a
totally.
little bit.
Yeah,
Um, I'll read this and then we'll go back to it.
yeah, man.
So this is a snapshot of something that I went through that had a big impact on me, and um, it was actually spurred to be written from uh, somebody at the VA, which I'll read it and get into it, and then I'll break it down for you guys.
Yeah,
March of 2022, I was struggling really bad with my PTSD. My marriage was falling apart. I was a shit father. I was a shit friend, and just all around dark person. to be around. I was parked in front of a local feed store waiting for them to open to get my corn for my deer feeder. And I had the first mental breakdown out in public that I just couldn't control, and I totally lost my shit against my better efforts to chill myself out. I burst into uncontrollable tears, and I gasped for my breath as my anxiety slammed me into my seat. I luckily was parked in front of a place I trusted. I gathered myself with all my willpower, and to act normally for a few seconds with everyone in the parking lot, and I walked into my friend's salon and I knocked on the door hoping nobody was there but her. She opened the door, and once I saw everything was clear, I got inside and continued my mental breakdown. I somehow held back for the last 15 seconds that felt like an eternity, but it was now hitting me full force. I sobbed unconsolably, wondering what the fuck was wrong with me, gasping for my breath. My friend is freaking out, asking me what was going on, but it was so faint I could hardly hear her, asking how she could help me. But all I could get out was, I don't know what was going on. And my mind starts flashing to the suicidal ideations I had been having for a while, and I'd been fighting back.
Mm.
My mind's still in full mental panic attack mode, then switched from I don't know what's going on to this life isn't worth living anymore. It's time. My friend had a customer pull up, so I ran in the back and hid myself, not to disrupt her business, while she called my mom to come to me. Once I got back into the back, I sat down and I had a moment of clarity, and I told myself to get my fucking shit together. I sat down on a stool and I mentally put on my Spartan helmet to try to beat the shit out of this mental breakdown. I started breathing techniques that I had learned to pace my breathing and try to regain some control. Battling to get my breath, I just told myself to keep trying. Tears still pouring out of my eyes, making it hard to see. I recalled this titty twister trick I had come up with. And I started all the titty twisters and focusing on my breathing. I'd take a breath, I'd twist my tit, and sometimes I'd smile and take another breath until I started calming down. Sounds stupid, I know, but it worked for me and it saved me that day. And then I've used it ever since as a tool to help me. I fast forward to my mom getting there and then taking me to a lake's edge and sitting and talking and crying and sifting through everything I had just went through for an hour and a half. And I told my mom my thoughts of killing myself because I knew if I didn't reach out at that very moment, I wouldn't be sitting here talking about it now. I took that first step, and my mom came home with me and hung out a while I reached out to the one person at the VA that I trusted. It was one of my mental health doctors that listens to me about how I want to treat my body and prescribes my medications. She answered, and I started telling her what was going on, and I broke down in tears again and I asked her what she could give me in getting into a mental health program out of state, even to get my frame of mind back where it needed to be and not wanting to end my life. She didn't report me that day and have the police come and get me or anything, and I'm grateful for that because I know she should have. She kept me on the phone a long time, even juggling me between her patients, but never hung up on me. She saved my life that day. She gave me hope for a better life, one I wanted to live. I held on for another week when I found ayahuasca, and I signed up for a ceremony that Thursday, in turn, which I also attribute to saving my life, but that's a whole nother conversation. Where I'm going with all of this is that I was at the VA today on August 4th, 2023, and I walked into the mental health office and asked for this doctor to come out into the hallway so I could thank her face to face for saving my life and what she did that day over a year ago. When she walked out, I told her how grateful I was, and I wouldn't be standing here today if it wasn't for her, as a tear of joy rolled down my cheek as well as hers. I told her how much I wanted to hug her, but I knew I couldn't, but to keep being a hero for our heroes, because she was one of the good ones. I know there are vets out there that hate the VA healthcare, but there are good providers out there, and don't give up. That goes for anyone. We all struggle. PTSD isn't just limited to veterans, even though we have our own special way of getting it. I'm also not a combat veteran. I was a firefighter when I served my time in the Air Force. And I struggle with issues because of it, with self-acceptance, with a combat versus I didn't see combat.
Mm.
But I've since I'm not worthy of things because I wasn't a combat vet, and something I'm working through. And today, getting to thank my mental health doctor felt like my soul released some of its darkness, and it was a step in the right direction. To anyone out there that's having issues in your life, reach out for help because people do care and want to be there for you. I'd rather help carry you through the dark times than carry your casket. We'll fight our demons together.
Dude, that's deep, sir. I mean, that's like, and everybody, just to let you know, I I have that on my phone, um, and I was just reading it, because sorry, I got people like bother me and they're trying to distract me, little demons outside trying to distract me. All right, but it's the help is everybody. That's all I gotta say. It doesn't matter where you get your help from, but dude, I'm glad you made it, man. I really am.
I
You
did.
know, because I mean, it it takes a lot of people to realize and see that the dark stuff in your life. Um, and I say this every time I do a podcast. If anybody is struggling whatsoever, it doesn't matter if it's PTSD, if it's depression, if it's just wanting to talk because you think that life sucks. Reach out to somebody. Don't
For
don't
sure.
be don't be a statistic. Don't be another dead body in the ground 6 feet under. Like we all have purposes to live. Everybody in this life, no matter who you are, you have a purpose. You know, um, and you have a purpose. Heck, you're doing your purpose right now, man. Come on now, you just raised
Yep.
you know over $2,000 for charity. You know, and for somebody who will straight street who will benefit straight from that, man. So I I I like your coping mechanisms. I never thought I never thought the little twist of the tit would
You got to
would
try it in your next
would
panic
calm
attack, man.
somebody down. Maybe one of these days when I'm in the flight of madness, I will
Yeah. I,
man,
I I I come up with special ways that make me laugh,
I
and
love it, man. It's great.
I've actually told a bunch of people that, and they'll get back with me like a week or two later, and they're like, "Dude, that's
Yeah,
so stupid, but it works." It's no different than the rubber band on the wrist. It's
yeah,
just
yep, yep.
you're
It's
giving
just
yourself a
something. It's
purple
just something
nipple.
to make you stop thinking about stuff. You know. But it's great. And by the way, I'm sure that if anybody wants to a if if you are watching this podcast or you watch it later on and you want to rehear everything that Justin just said, you can reach out to him and I'm sure that he'll share it with you.
I don't mind
Um,
sharing that with
yeah,
anybody. That's
it
why I
is.
wrote it.
I mean, it's sometimes it's easier to read things than to hear things, you know. But let's see what the comments are saying. Oh, but Jason Heinen uh, said the VA has a great mental health program. Just ask him. That's yeah. I tell you, mental health is important. So maybe one of these days, if Jason deals with that, maybe I'll have him on the podcast one of these days, and he can talk about that. And then here's Jeff Harrison. I can totally relate to the combat vet part. I came from a family that men served. I was taught it was my duty. I signed up on my 18th birthday, but had a compound fracture on my ankle before I left for boot camp. You know, and somebody named Christian Whitaker says that they want a copy. Well, I'm sure that if you reach out to Shape the Podcast on Facebook, um, because that's where we mainly do it. I can get you in contact with Justin, and he can gladly send that your way. Because I think it's easier. Like for me, it's easier to read stuff than to hear it. Because I think the words stick better, if that makes sense. You know, um, but yeah, it takes a strong person and a strong, just individual to realize that, dude, I got some shit going on. I got, and then for you to walk in and thank somebody that helped you. You know?
That when I wrote that day, that was that afternoon. I came home and I sat down and I just I felt honored to be able to thank somebody that did something that that was that tremendous in my that was a huge part of my life. Like I was in
Yeah.
probably the one of the darkest moments in my life, and I reached out to her, and she gave a shit.
Yeah.
I could have went to my mom or my dad or one of my friends, but they didn't have the resources that she would have had.
Yeah.
We would have, and I would have ended up there anyway.
Yeah.
So I luckily had her that I trusted, and I got to reach out to her. And whenever I came home that day, I felt like I needed to write that down because we all have memory issues sometimes.
Yeah.
Things blank, and I wanted to document that day, and I never journal like that, and that was the one day I decided, well, today's the day you're gonna do it, and that took about 45 minutes to write, and I cried the
Yep.
whole time, sometimes harder than the others, and
I was gonna say that this day that you wrote this had to be it had to be so like just soothing and rewarding to do it, because here
the,
you are, you're
I've
putting
never
pen,
cried for 45 minutes,
yeah,
other than that.
you're putting pen to paper, right? You know,
Mhm.
and you're getting your shit out there, and that's what matters, because here's the thing. Now you can look back on this and you be like, excuse my French, holy fuck, like I I went through this as a person. I came out on the other side as a better person. Because here's the thing: you didn't die. You know, yeah. Your old self died. Because you're not the Justin that you used to be. You're the you're the new Justin. Now you got an awesome family. You don't have a failed marriage. You got you got
Nope.
a good life. You got a good life. You got a son who I know looks up to you like you're a hero.
It's
And
my
thinks
little
that
bearding buddy now.
yeah thinks that what you do because in the breeding community because for those of you who don't know, Justin is a part of the breeding community, and his son is like a little miniature Justin. Okay, his his son actually has more awards than Justin does.
Whoa, bro, whoa.
Uh, yes, and by the way, Jason said that the new Justin hits differently. Yeah. Well, Jason, I can tell you right now, uh, the new Kyle, who I am today, had you known me, heck, man, had Justin known me back in 2015, 2016, shit,
Oh, we'd have
uh,
partied like it was
dude, yeah,
1999.
I am not that person today, but I, I've had a lot of people in my life influence me, and that have helped me and guide me and mold me to be that better person, and so like for real, and I'll say this, and I'm sure you can agree with me here, but like if anybody needs that in their life, reach out, you know, like just reach out to somebody. It's hard, yes, it is very hard to reach out, and it's very hard to ask for help, but I would rather see somebody ask for help than to take their own life, you know, or to drive drunk and take somebody else's life or overdose. I don't want that to happen to anybody I know, and
Yeah,
but yeah, it's like Jeff said, it's not easy telling your lowest points, but putting it to paper is it's totally yeah. It'll always be in your head, and B, when you start to struggle and you start to think that life sucks, if you had that written down, and especially if you have it saved, you can go back and look at this and be like, you know what, my life isn't bad today. Yeah, it might suck sometimes,
yeah.
like
I send that to people, so
eh,
if we don't have time to talk, I can. it's kind of like that shoving it under the door. Like they know somebody else has been through
Yeah,
something where they
I mean,
are.
because I'm here to tell you now, this podcast has saved my life more than people know. I um I actually just went back to work after being a month without a job. It was the hardest month that I've ever had in my life. Um, since I changed my life around, and since I got because Aaron wants to know why I was rating my phone up, because I was saying if you write down your story, and you save it, you can look back on it, because it's here or it's on a piece of paper, and you look back and you can be like, hey, I remember when I wrote this down. My life isn't as bad as it is back then.
Yeah,
So
I
yes,
I wrote
that's why
that
I was
down
rating my
after
phone
being
around Aaron.
sober for a while.
Yeah, I mean but it takes a lot to uh, you know, journal. I think journaling is an awesome thing. Um, to me, this this podcast, this show, doing the show, this is my journal. You know, I look, I will go back and I will rewatch episodes just because the people in those episodes inspire me. Each and every person that I've had on, I owe a debt of gratitude from to because they've all inspired me. Yeah, you inspired me before I even had you on the show tonight. I mean,
Thanks,
because
man.
I could see like what you were doing through the community, you know, and then you got me in touch with PJ, and that guy inspires me. So really, if anybody ever needs some inspiration in their lives, and especially if you follow Shape the podcast, go back and watch an episode. Just pick one. Pick an episode, watch it, and you know, be inspired to do something positive. Because that's what it takes. And it takes one person lighting that spark of positivity to ignite an even bigger fire of positivity. You know, and
True words, man.
I mean that's really what it does. And so don't be afraid. Like dude, and I know it's this is not gonna be an hour episode. I can tell you right now, uh, because it's going on 40 minutes in, and we have a lot going on, and we have
Yeah,
friends here in Ghent, West Virginia. But hey, I'm glad you came on to share that, man. Because that's deep stuff, to to share that you went through the darkest times in your life, and to realize that I have to do something about this, because you got to think you're not living for yourself now. You're living for your kid. You're living for the the work behind you. You know,
yeah.
you're living for that, and you're living for heck. How many people did you have show up down there in Orlando to your comp?
We had about 35 competitors,
So
and we
that's
had a hell of a
35.
crowd.
That's 35 people now that you're living for, right? And then you got like a whole bunch more people you're living for. So you're not living for yourself anymore, right? But but before we wrap up this podcast, so yeah, Jason Gill said you had over 130 people attend, right? So yeah, so it's pretty awesome now that you have people that you have to live for. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
And now we both in our lives we have people that have to hold us accountable, but we also have to hold ourselves accountable. But before I wrap up tonight's podcast, if people will stop, my wife just sent me a text. But before we wrap up tonight's podcast, what would you say, like to somebody out there who's struggling or needs help or just anything in general? Like, just give a word of positivity to somebody.
Well, I know in my life, my sobriety was huge for me, and it turned my life around because I wasn't headed in a good place, and
Uh,
once I sobered up, I learned that, I had anxiety and depression that I had been soothing with alcohol for over almost a decade and almost 2 decades.
Yeah.
And once I quit all that, I had to learn how to deal with my anxiety, and like I know how the dark times are. I've been there. Like that story was just one day,
Yeah.
and that one day compounded by years. You got to start learning ways to treat yourself.
Hmm.
You're not always gonna have somebody right next to you that can, hey man, I'm here, I got you. Like sometimes you have to learn how to cope alone, and those are scary moments. And that turns into dark thoughts, and dark thoughts are hard. We all go through bad times, but find positivity and try to find that positive perspective, because living in that dark spot, it's not fun. But
Yeah.
there's people out here that love you, so we want to help. We want to be there. So please, reach out and talk to somebody and get help, because we do care.
Yeah, that's right. And again, like I said, and like Justin did, if if you don't have a pen or a pencil, and a piece of paper around, but you have a cell phone around, and you need to write down what's going on in your life, write it down, and because that might save you, but by getting that out. But don't just keep it, share it with somebody, and let that person know, hey, this is what's going on in my life, So never be afraid to ask for help, um, even if it's hard. But man, I appreciate you, Justin. Thanks for coming on, man. You're you're an amazing human being.
Thank you, buddy. You are too.
Like Aaron said, he feels honored to have you in his life. You know, um,
Ditto, Aaron.
dude. Yeah, I mean, you're great. So, man, thank you for coming on. I'm just gonna wrap it up with you on the screen. Normally I wrap it up with me on the screen, but thanks to everybody who tuned in, and thanks to everybody who's gonna rewatch this. Um, it wasn't our normal hour-long episode, but again, episodes don't have to be an hour for the message to be put across. And for people to understand that no matter what you're going through in life, you know, there's always help out there. You know, so for those of you who are near Ghent, West Virginia, be here tomorrow. All right, tomorrow's gonna be an awesome day. Um, First thing in the morning, bright and early at 11:30. Um, Aaron and Natalie are going to be presented a check from a event that happened online, the National Beard Mustache competition that just wrapped up last weekend. Aaron and Natalie are going to be presented the check for that money. Those of you who don't know the Johnstons, I tell you, I don't want to get sentimental here, but they've they've helped me become a better person. Like I said, there are people in my lives, and a lot of people are here this weekend that have made my life a better person, and made me a better person, and the Johnsons are part of that group. So again, thank you all. Um, Reach out if you're having any type of issues. My phone's always on. Um, my messenger's always on. It might be I don't care. It could be 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't care if my wife asks me who I'm talking to. If you need to talk about something's going on in your life, and you just need to talk, just reach out to somebody, and do something for somebody this weekend. All right, like go out and do something positive for yourself. You know, go out and help your neighbor. Go to a soup kitchen and feed 100 people. Do something positive, do something great, and see you back in 2 weeks for another exciting episode of Shape the Podcast. I will be back home in my home studio, aka my dining room table. All right, but we'll see you then in 2 weeks. Have a great night, everybody.